Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Viktorija, captain of the Factory Berlin Solopreneurs Circle, and I will be your host for this event. Today, we have two fantastic communication experts, Kristina Belikova and Brittni Bowering, ready to share their best advice and tips on how to organize online events like pros and deliver impactful remote experiences. But before we start, a few words about Factory Berlin. Factory Berlin is an ecosystem of over 4,000 members from more than 70 nations located in 2 Berlin campuses and now also in Hamburg. In there, you can meet the most ambitious creators from the tech, creative, and corporate industries. One of the great things Factory Berlin offers is circles. These are self-organized sub-communities governed around shared interests, industries, and projects where members exchange ideas, inspire, and support each other. This event is organized for you by Solopreneurs Circle. So, in the next hour, we will talk all about online experiences. After a year of remote working, virtual communication, and socializing with our computers, what have we learned? Are there still areas to improve and opportunities to explore? So the first speaker today is Kristina Belikova. Kristina, welcome.
Hello.
Kristina is a seasoned PR and communications professional with experience in various fields, from foreign affairs to technology. She has led several communication and public affairs projects in Europe and US, worked as communications consultant in Brussels and Vilnius, and collaborated with different international organizations. And Kristina will talk about different events, which work better when, and how to make the most of them online. And also, don't forget, you guys, please don't be shy and engage with us and post your comments and questions in the chat. So, Kristina, the stage is yours. Please tell us everything about virtual events.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Viktorija, for a wonderful introduction. And it's my pleasure to be here today with you. I'll share my presentation. I hope you can see this now. So as Viktorija mentioned, my name is Kristina, and today I will talk about organizing online events like a pro. We'll manage to cover only the ABC, so the basics, because we do not have that much time, but I hope it will be useful for you and you'll get the most out of it. So very shortly about me. So my name is Kristina, and I like to call myself an international interdisciplinary PR professional. I lived all over the place in different European countries, in the United States, and now I'm based in Vilnius, which actually is finally having some spring weather after like 10 years of winter. So I'm very excited about it. I hope you have good weather too, guys. And as you can see from my experiences, I see career as a playground, as an opportunity to discover different topics, to learn different skills, and then build your professional portfolio from there. So I worked as a reporter, as a correspondent in Brussels, as a lobbyist, did a lot of different things. And recently I have joined the office of the president of Lithuania, where I worked as a communications project manager. So I just want to say that I'm not a professional coach or trainer or anything like that, and everything that I share comes from my personal experience. So I'm not a super expert, but if you have any questions, you can totally ask them, put them in the comment section, and I'll try to answer it. So because I'm not a professional event organizer, but rather a PR professional, I look at the events as a communication tool, as a tool to reach your goals and to benefit your general strategy. And in this presentation, I'll take it from there. So think about 1 year ago when the pandemic started and everything in a clap of a hand moved online. All the events, all the conferences, discussions, workshops, wine tastings, everything was happening online, and we all were so excited about it, but the excitement lasted for like 1 month probably. And we were joining all the events that we could for 1 week. And afterwards, our motivation started going down because we were all tired of spending all day in front of the screen and then continuing after work, spending your time in front of the screen. So people that work in this area in the field of events and had to organize events, including me, started noticing that level of engagement and participation is going down. And I could see that in our events that I was organizing at my previous workplace, we started seeing less participants. And I started thinking, like, what is the perfect recipe of an online event that actually makes sense, and how to make it so relevant for people that out of all events, out of all the abundance, they choose your event and they come and listen to you. And I came up with some basic things, but I think they're really important. So first of all, when you're organizing any event, online or offline, the first question that you have to answer is, who is your target audience? So basically, who is this event for? Is it the general public? Maybe decision makers? Maybe young people? Maybe it's an internal event, so it is members of some organization, or maybe members of some community. So knowing your audience gives you an opportunity to adjust your event and make it relevant for them. And the more you know about them, the better for you. So if you can even research and investigate more information about your audience, it will equip you with the tools to provide them what they need to cover the topics that interest them, to choose formats that are good for them. And then the audience will come to you. And even if you can like visualize your audience, how do they look like? It will provide you with information that will help you to make it relevant. So let's say you have already decided what your target audience is, you know who your event is for, then there are more questions to answer. And another question is to answer, what is your goal? Like, why are you organizing this event? And it is very important because very often people miss this question and they just organize events for the sake of the event. They organize events for everyone and they basically speak about everything to the void. And this is what you want to avoid. So answer to the question, what is your goal? Is it to raise a certain topic and educate the audience? Is it to make your community stronger, to build skills, to educate, to voice different opinions maybe? Maybe you want to build the visibility of your organization as an expert of a certain topic. And there can be many more goals to your event, maybe contact making, networking, experience sharing, but it's very important to answer to this question and to know why you're organizing it. So by now, let's say you have already answered to these two questions. So you already know who your event is for, so you know your target audience, and you know why you're organizing this event. And this is a very good baseline to move forward. So now you know these things, and you can choose the best format that will cater to your needs and to the needs of your audience. And I noticed that normally, especially in international circles, when we talk about events, people right away think about panel discussions. When you have like 3 or 4 people and the moderator and they talk about something and then you have a little Q&A afterwards. But actually, there are so many other formats that can be explored and that can serve your goals even better than panel discussions, presentations and Q&A sessions. Interviews, if you want to discover some topic in the more formal setting, fireside chat for more of an informal conversation, meet and greet if you want people to meet each other, master classes for knowledge sharing, workshops for knowledge building, and conferences if you want to give a broader overview of some topic. So based on who you're organizing your event for and what is the goal of your event, you can choose the best format that will serve your goals. And then you're not done yet. To make it more complicated, you have to answer some more questions. How to make it relevant? How do you make
Kristina, can I interrupt you very briefly? I think the audience now, they are not seeing the slides. They see only the cover slide. Maybe you can do the full screen, and then if you are changing the slides so that they change with now slides have changed. Yeah.
Okay, it was a full screen before. It's weird. Okay, so what you haven't seen, once again, target audience. What is your goal? different formats, and you can see the slide, right? How to make it relevant. So you have a very good exercise to make is to ask yourself a question. Why should someone attend this event and not some other similar event? Like, put yourself in a position of your audience and try to answer this question. Like, what is the unique angle you're providing? Is it a unique topic that maybe was not covered very widely before and you will talk about it? Maybe it's a format that offers some interaction or some innovative format to discuss things, maybe networking opportunities with some high-level speakers, maybe some exclusive content that people cannot find elsewhere, or they have to pay for it, but you're given it for free. So look for that unique angle that would be a motivation for people to come to your event and not come to some other event. So it comes back to the knowing your audience and catering to their needs. So when you're thinking of the event, think not what you want to say to people, but what your audience needs to hear and wants to hear, and start from there. And another advice that I can give is always give it a twist. If you're organizing a regular event, think of some crazy detail of a little pinch of pepper maybe that can make things different. And I'll give you two examples of how I have done it in the past. So a couple of years ago, I had to organize a discussion of the Lithuanian foreign affairs minister with young people about European Union. So probably you already hear where the problem is. Minister, European Union, young people. It does not seem automatically like people would be interested in that and that they would engage in this discussion. So we were thinking of the ways of how to give it a twist, how to make it more relevant, more interesting. And so we decided to invite a stand-up comedian, a famous stand-up comedian in Lithuania that is very popular among young people, to host this talk. And it was a very unusual setting because you would see a very formal person talking to a very informal person, and they did not have any script before. Young people were asking questions on Slido, and that was the basis for the conversation. And we had brilliant feedback after this event, and young people really enjoyed conversation like this. So a little twist can be a game changer. Another example is the event that we organized last autumn at my previous workplace. So I was working at the organization that was organizing events about artificial intelligence. And you know, artificial intelligence is a topic that is surrounded by many myths about robots and machines and monsters that are going to take over the humanity and kill us all. So we thought that we need to dismantle these myths. And so we decided that a funny way to do it would be to organize an AI Halloween party. And we literally did it as a party. On Friday night, we organized a discussion where different people were representing different myths of AI. And then we had live chat box, people chatting about it, and it was a great success. So even though it was a Friday night, a lot of people attended. So a little twist is always nice, and it adds a different color to your event. When we talk about more technical parts, some online essentials. So your goal when you're organizing an event is to make it as easily accessible to your audience as possible. And there are two things, technical things that you need to think about. First of all, do you want people to register or not? So I'm always on the side that recommends to not register people because it's an additional step they have to make. It's an additional barrier. And if you can avoid that, then do not ask people to register because you lose some people on the way. If you want to filter your audience a little bit and you want to keep the contact details of the people that are registering, then of course register, but then make the registration as easy as possible so that people do not have to enter too much data, that it's easy and it takes up to 1 minute, because with every minute, with every additional step, you will be losing people. Another question is streaming. So make it also as accessible as possible for people. If it can be accessible with one click, it's perfect. If people have to download additional apps, go to some websites that are not compatible with their computer or phone or tablet, you will be losing people as well. So as easy as possible. And even if you use the fanciest tool that is very, very pretty, but it's hard to get to it, people will not like it and you will lose your audience. So also when you're organizing an online event, make sure you set the rules of the game. So the people that are in the event, they know how things will happen. So there are two scenarios for that. So one type of event is when you have, let's say, 3 speakers talking and 1 moderator, and then it's easier to manage because all your audience is just watching the streaming, and just 3 people are talking. So in that scenario, you just have to instruct those 3 people that are talking that they have to keep their cameras on, their microphones off when they're not talking, and so on. And it seems very basic, but recently I've been to a discussion with like 6 speakers, and they would talk and turn their camera off, and you would see a black square on the screen. So you obviously do not want that. And another scenario is if you have a lot of people joining in an online space, let's say on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and they all can turn their camera on and their microphone on. So in order to avoid the mess, you have to instruct them on how to behave, when they can talk, when they can turn their camera or the microphone on, and when it's not recommended. So when they know the rules of the game, it's easier. In online events, also create opportunities for engagement. Sometimes it's challenging, but try to use chat box, polls, and tools like that will make your audience interact with you and get feedback from them. And also use another opportunity, which is sometimes even easier than in live events, is breaking into smaller sessions, going into smaller chat groups, creating space for participants to talk, to discuss with the speakers or maybe among each other. And I think it's very often forgotten in an online event, and we just have one person talking and everybody else listening. So use opportunities for interaction. Some
Kristina,
other tips.
Sorry. Factory Berlin technical support. The slides don't change. Can you try to?
Yes, once again. Can you see the tips and tricks now?
Tips and tricks I can see now.
Good. So we go from there. So some other tips and tricks. So when you're organizing an event, always think of the communication. Communication is everything, because even if you have the best event with the best speakers and it's amazing, but nobody knows about it, it will not be a success. So you have to know your target audience, right? And you will already know it because you defined it at the very beginning, and you have to try to reach them. So go to the communication channels where your target audience is. If they're on LinkedIn, post on LinkedIn. If they're on Facebook, maybe on some Facebook groups, go and reach out to them there and be creative. If you just do one post on Facebook and you expect that everybody will come to your event, normally it is not the case. So do some promo videos, ask the speakers to invite the audience to your event, do some creative visuals and things like that. They will attract attention to what you are doing. Another tip is investigate what others are doing and don't do the same. So of course, if you want people to come to your event, it has to be unique somehow. And if there is someone doing basically the same, what is the point of organizing the event that has been already done? So think about that. Another basic rule that is very important is pick the right timing for the event. If you have a great event and you schedule it for Monday morning or Sunday midnight, nobody will be there. So once again, know your audience, what is the best time for them, and pick the right timing for the event. Don't fail the technical part and be prepared. Test everything before, especially if you are trying to use any new tools that you haven't used before. And it seems like, oh, everything seems to work and it will be fine. And of course, it will fail you when you have to do it. So connect with your colleagues, test everything in advance to make sure that it works well. If something does not work well, do not use it during your event. Be creative and play with the formats. Do not stick to only panel discussions or to one format. Discover different things and try to think out of the box when you're creating a concept of your event. And another and last tip is think twice if you need that event. There are so many other ways to deliver your message and to deliver the content. And maybe some things can be not an event, but a podcast or an article or a social media post. So think about that. And only if you think the event is the best way to serve your goals, then organize an event. So that's all from me. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And please get in touch on Twitter, LinkedIn, or email if you have any questions later on.
Thank you, Kristina. Thanks a lot for so many good tips. I already want to actually organize my next event. Now I feel so empowered, like, and really, like the points to think about. And I really, probably for me, even this opening line that you said, that when organizing events, like for you, events are the communication tool to reach your goals. So they are not just, I don't know, just to have fun. It could be, but maybe the goal is to have fun, right? So always, to keep that in mind. So I'm hoping that we have some questions from the audience. Maybe they want to clarify certain points. Let's see. There's a slide.
I'm really distracted by my slides not changing.
But I mean, you communicated all the points anyway. So I think I was making notes, not even noticing that slides not changing, just listening to you. Right. So let's see if. Right. So we have question from Vanessa, and she's asking, "Is it normal?" Okay. They're asking about the slides.
No, it's not normal. You should have seen all the presentations, but technical difficulties, something that I mentioned in the presentation, right? That test everything before, do not fail technical part. We managed to fail it.
No, but you compensated it with your enthusiasm and engagement. Honestly, I was so engaged that I just ignored the slides altogether. Let's see. Here we go. We have a comment question. Can you see, Kristina?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have a question. How do I foster interaction between audience members? How do I keep my audience attention? What tools, platform are best for which event format?
I would say maybe you could choose one part of the question, because also Brittni will be talking, and she will. I'm pretty sure she will cover the things of interacting with the audience and keeping their attention. I'm pretty sure she will talk about that. So perhaps.
Okay. A little think about facilitate networking and things like that. When you're organizing an online event, it seems like a challenge for people to network because you cannot talk in person to each other. But a very cool thing that I have discovered in one of the events is smaller discussion rooms. So when you have a lot of people and you want them to meet each other, you can break into smaller rooms and give them 5-6 minutes to chat to each other and meet each other. And you can do topical rooms. You can separate people randomly in different rooms, and that's a way to do it. Another question: what tools, platform are best for which event formats? So I am on the side of making it simple. So if you're organizing, let's say, a panel discussion and you're not planning to engage your people too much, you just want to have a chat box on the side, then just use streaming on YouTube and put it on all your social media. Everything normally works super fine with that, and it costs you nothing. If you wanted to look more branded and more professional, there are some tools like Zoom TV that you pay a little fee, but you can brand it with your logo, you can brand it with your visuals, and make it look more professional. So for like conferences or a larger events, I would recommend that. Also in terms of when you have a lot of people joining and you do not want them to interrupt your event or speakers talking, then you just do the streaming. So all of the audience is just watching it and can ask questions on the chat box, and only the people who are speakers have access to the microphone and the camera. So it's easier to manage the mess. Okay, Okay, what kind of information that tells that is the best timing for my audience? So there are a lot of companies and websites that are doing surveys on when is the best time to post on social media, when is the best time to interact with your audience based on the topic and the type of your audience. And one of them is Sprout Social. So you can Google that and look at at their graphs that they publish, and you will find a lot of useful information there. Also, when you will be promoting your event, it will be useful to know when to post and what to post, because apparently people are interested in different topics at different time of the day. So choose wisely what you post and when.
So I think for now we have to stop with questions, because we still have Brittni, and she will also cover a lot of interesting things and present to you. But I just wanted to, precisely to tell you that, like, you're getting some nice feedback, Kristina, that, audience really enjoyed what you were doing. And I'm telling you, if, delivery is good, small hiccups like, I don't know, slides are not moving, it's, it's not the end of the world. So, we all know that's technology. Sometimes we cannot control everything. So thanks again, Kristina, for such insightful presentation. It's so good to have you. Yes, if you guys want to connect with Kristina, she shared her contact, so you can find her on LinkedIn, network, and use this opportunity to learn more from the experts in the field.
Thank you very much for an invitation, and I hope you have a great rest of the event and a lot of successful events in the future.
Thank you, Kristina.
Bye, guys.
And now I'm very excited to introduce our next speaker, Brittni Bowering. Brittni, hello, good to see you. So Brittni will share with you how to deliver impactful remote experiences. Brittni is a content strategist and expert workshop facilitator. She spent a large part of her career traveling the world, teaching companies like Twitter, Lufthansa, and Google how to deliver better workshops and team meetings. So, guys, you are now up for a treat. I've seen some of Brittni's talks, presentations, and workshops. So, can't wait, Brittni. Do your magic. Brittni, you're muted.
Hilarious. Isn't this fun? A little bit of technical difficulties. It just keeps it human, right? So Thank you. I was just saying, thank you very much for that introduction, and thank you for the invite. I'm super excited to be here and to share a little bit of what I've been learning over the past, I guess, year or so with all of this crazy remote work stuff. So I'm going to jump in and share my screen, but feel free to let me know if the slides are not changing. I'm using Keynote, so maybe that will be a bit different. Let's see here. I'm going to go straight into it. Here we go. And I'm sharing, and I'm going to go like this. How does that look? Does it look okay?
We see now 2 slides, I would say.
You're seeing, I see what you're seeing. Okay, that's interesting. All right. You're seeing my presentation screen. So that's funny, isn't it? Hold on, let me see if I can quickly change that.
And meanwhile, I just want to say, like, for everyone who's watching, it is worth waiting. So, we will sort it out soon, but it's really worth waiting. I'm not lying. I've seen Brittni's talks, and, time just flies with her, and you were like, wow, that's amazing.
You're so sweet. So this wasn't happening before, though, last time when we tested it, right? That's just, it was just happening. That's interesting, you guys. Isn't this, I mean, this is just the crazy stuff. Maybe, I'm not really sure actually how to do this. Hi.
Maybe stop sharing and start sharing again, and then
okay. Maybe it will be different.
Maybe.
Could it be? Okay, what about if I go like this? Is it still?
Perfect.
Oh, fabulous. Oh, the sense of relief! I'll tell you.
But look, even like your cover slide is like it's all about sorting problems, right? This power woman standing there, and it's like.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And as much as like the stress of when something goes wrong is so horrible, the relief when you finally figure out it's totally worth it. So I'm happy that happened. Okay, thank you, Viktorija. I'm going to kick off. We're already running a few minutes late, so I'll just jump right into it. So I'm Brittni. I am exactly what Viktorija said. She gave the perfect introduction, really, and a very nice one as well. I do content strategy for businesses, mostly in the B2B sector. So I work with a lot of agencies, a lot of agency owners, a lot of consultants who are looking to actually use content to kind of gain traction, get a bit of attention, and build some awareness around their brand and their business. But what I absolutely love to do is to use workshops when I work with my clients, to run events. It's like this weird thing that I just enjoy doing so much that I've learned a lot about it. So that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. You can follow me on Instagram, you can find me on LinkedIn, all that stuff. Just go for it. This talk is about delivering impactful remote experiences. So I'm going to be using the words workshop, meeting, event kind of interchangeably. So you can take this for whatever you have coming up in a remote scenario, but I really hope that it will be helpful for you no matter what. So I guess the question is, and I'm going to ask you this, and feel free to throw it in the comments, what makes a remote experience so difficult, right? What makes it hard to, on both sides, right? What makes it difficult to run a remote, event or workshop or meeting, and why is it so difficult to attend them? I think that's sort of starting there is a really nice place to kick off, because I think once we understand why these things are difficult, then we can actually combat them a little bit better. So I'm assuming that the comment section is maybe filling up with a couple of ideas, but I'm going to go ahead and share the 4 that I think are the biggest reason why remote is just difficult and exhausting, let's say. Incredibly exhausting, let's be honest. Firstly, if you think about it, in a remote scenario, you have absolutely no nonverbal cues, right? So you can't actually see what people are really doing with their bodies. I mean, you can kind of, right? But you can't actually see, if they're kind of, if they seem disengaged. All you can really tell is whether people are answering your questions or whether they're looking in the screen's direction. And this makes it really, really difficult, of course. The second one is that, which is, I never even thought about this, and I know that might sound a bit silly, but it's literally impossible to have any eye contact if you're in a remote scenario. Because if I'm looking into my camera, you'll feel like I'm looking into your eyes, but I won't feel your eyes coming back to me, right? I know that sounds silly, but it's really true. There's really no way for us to actually have eye contact, and eye contact is extremely important for human beings. We'll get into more why in a little bit. But the third one, there's obviously more distractions. And I mean, this goes hand in hand, more distractions because you have less control, right? So I have no control, absolutely none, over what you are experiencing on your end right now. So you have, a bunch of stuff on your desk. Maybe you have your phone there. Maybe I'm not keeping your attention. You've got something else open on your desktop. I cannot control your scenario. And that makes giving an actual good experience really, really difficult. I'm also a bit of a control freak, so, I like to be in control. Is that weird? I probably shouldn't have told you that. All right, number 4, there isn't an exchange of energy, right? So when you're in the room with someone, whether you like it or not, even if you don't like the person, or if you're not enjoying the event or the workshop, there is energy in that room, just naturally from humans being together in a space. You can, feed off of it. If someone's really energetic, you can feel that a little bit of that energy from them. If they're really tired, if everybody's kind of like lull, you'll probably start to feel that too. It's a really cool way that we sort of, mimic behavior that we're seeing. And that's why it's really difficult for me to control how, again, with this control thing, God, I didn't realize it was so prominent, but it's really difficult for me to manage your energy because I'm not with you in the room. So I can't, if I can tell that you're a bit, feeling a bit of a lull, I can't be like, let's do it. Like, rah, rah, and jump up and do a dance or whatever I would do. I wouldn't dance. I mean, I might dance, but only a little. So what this is all getting to is the fact that remote experiences are exhausting, right? I think we can all agree that it's really, really tiring being on Zoom calls all day, or any kind of, Google Meet, whatever it is, right? It's tiring. And the reason, once I found this out, I was like, oh, that is so incredible and makes perfect sense. The reason is that every human interaction that we have in our lives, subconsciously, we are actually kind of weighing the cost versus reward of that interaction. So when I meet someone in, at home, or if I go to a meeting and there's people in the room, I'm actually getting a lot of reward from that interaction because I'm getting eye contact. I can see their body language. I can see their nonverbal cues. I have a bit of this energy exchange, right? All of those things that I don't have in a remote experience. So it's really kind of it just makes absolute perfect sense that you would be tired and exhausted after Zoom calls because you're giving out so much energy to try to, like, after this, I'm literally going to go and take a nap because I won't be able to probably look straight because I'm exuding so much energy and I can't see any of you. I can't talk to any of you, not yet, which means that it's actually costing me a lot more than I'm currently getting back, right? So that's why these scenarios are so tiring. So that is just really important, a little bit of backstory on what you need to know, okay? So what can we do about it? Here we go, let's get into the goods. You need to restructure your remote experiences, your workshop, your meetings, to accommodate these things. So quick reminder, these are all the things that we don't have, or these are all the things that are bringing to the table in a remote experience. So how can we actually combat these things as a facilitator, as someone running the show, right? So let's look at it really simply. Let's keep it tangible is what I always love to do. So for nonverbal cues, okay, this one, you need to think about the fact that a nonverbal cue is usually giving feedback to each other, right? So if I'm presenting something and I'm in the room with people, I can tell based on, where their eyes are going, what their body is doing, the way that they're, like, if they're facing me, leaning in, or if they're kind of sitting back and they're turned away, right? Whether they're actually listening to what I'm saying, whether they're engaged or not. Or even I can tell if someone has a question if I'm in the room with someone, right? Because they might lean in and be like, oh, but in a remote scenario, there's none of that. So it's a real problem, right? So that means you need to schedule these feedback moments, whether they're feedback moments or like chances for people to just engage, ask questions, comments, opinions. Those need to be scheduled in, and they need to happen way more often in a remote scenario than if you were in person, because those will happen organically, right? So make sure that if you're covering a topic in a meeting or a workshop and you get to the end and you say, does anybody have any questions? And nobody has a question, that actually might not be the case. There might actually be people with questions. There might actually be things to talk about, but you just didn't give people the right opportunity to do that. So using tools, if you have an audience that is maybe a little bit shy, you need to use tools like Slido. You can use, there's all kinds of different polling softwares that you can use. But make sure that those are happening, because that's what people are lacking. They need the exchange, right? No eye contact. Let's go on. No eye contact. You need to make sure that you're adding in activities for personal connection. So it's super important that you actually think about the fact, so everyone comes together on a Zoom call, right? And then you're like, okay, I'm going to kick off the meeting. I'm Brittni. Here's the agenda, yada, yada, yada. But in a room, in a in-person scenario, we would have had this opportunity as everyone's kind of strolling into the meeting to be like, hey, how was your weekend? How you doing? What's up? Whatever. In a remote scenario, you have to create that moment. So at the beginning of every single remote thing, whatever it is, you should be engaging with people. You should ask. One of my favorite things to do is to ask a question, a very, very simple question, and go around the table and get everyone to answer. So something like, if you're doing a really big event, which maybe some of you are interested in that, I would do how are you doing? Scale of 1 to 10, and get everybody to answer in the chat. If it's a smaller group, I might be like, what was the best moment that you had in the last week? And get everybody to answer that. It's super positive. It reminds people that there's another another human on the other side of the screen, which is so important. So you just need to think about those things. Activities for personal connection. More distractions. What do you need to do? I mean, this is a simple one. Shorter sessions, longer breaks. And I know you think that in a remote scenario, it's like, oh, well, people are just chilling at home. They can like grab a water or whatever. So you don't need to have breaks as often, but it's actually the exact opposite. Breaks should really be happening at least every hour in any kind of remote scenario. And I think a break of less than 10 minutes doesn't really make sense because you need people to step away from the screen. I always encourage people to open a window, get some fresh air. It's super, super important that you just every now and again, or else we're all gonna have those fried eyes with all the screen time. Okay, and no energy exchange. Well, guess what you need to do? You need to create a more human experience. Now, I know that we're running a little bit over time, but I'm just gonna go through my one kind of last point about creating an experience, and then we can go into Q&A because we started off a little bit late. So how to create an experience. That's one of my favorite things to do, actually. Every time I run a meeting or a workshop, I'm trying to figure out a way to give people a little bit extra. And actually, that was really cool because I think both of our presentations are actually quite nicely tied together. In terms of creating a bit of an experience for people, adding a little bit something extra, right? So a couple ways you can do this. If you're running a meeting or a workshop, you should always treat it like an event. And if you're running an event, then you should definitely treat it like an event. Sorry, that was a little silly. But it is really important that you think about a workshop or if it's a big meeting event, as an event, right? Like, how can we make people come to this remote scenario, come to this Zoom call and think to themselves, oh, this isn't like my average, this isn't just another Zoom call that I'm attending, right? That's what we're going for there. And that involves creating a little bit of an environment. And the way to do that, there's a few really great ways that I love. So I like to make sure that I am very well lit, that I use an external camera when I'm facilitating anything, when I'm running a workshop for sure, because then you're kind of positioning yourself as the person leading the group, right? You're showing people that you're professional, you know what you're doing, and you're taking things seriously, right? And I like that, even though I'm not a very serious person, but I like to be taken seriously. So it's kind of a little bit of a balancing act. So creating an environment, make sure you have the right equipment, the right tech setup. We can't get into the super nitty-gritty details because we don't have the time, but there's tons of stuff online about that. Another thing that I love to do that is such a simple little hack is to use, if you're using Zoom, and maybe even with other platforms, of course, it'll be similar, to use music, right? So I know this sounds simple and kind of obvious, but I think a lot of people don't even think about it. Like every time I run a meeting where there's more than like 3 people attending, and I'm the host, I have music playing and I'm sharing the music with everybody in the meeting through Zoom. And that way they join the meeting and they're like, and literally it makes people smile immediately when they come into a Zoom room and there's like some weird disco music playing or like something fun and upbeat. Everyone's like, oh, what's this? What's going on here? You know, and it just makes it, again, more of an experience. And then also creating highlight moments. So one of the best books that I read in the last, it was years ago that I read it, but still awesome, is called The Power of Moments by Chip and Dan Heath. And basically what they do is they talk about how, one of the biggest takeaways is a person can have an experience, and the experience can be very, very mediocre, like really average actually. But if there are a couple of points in the experience where there was a bit of a highlight, something special happened, they'll actually remember that experience as being much, much more positive. Like they'll remember it as being a whole thing was a highlight moment, right? So it's kind of a weird thing that we do as humans, but it's so powerful to know that. So when I am designing a workshop or I'm planning a meeting, I'm thinking about how can I incorporate a couple of fun little highlights here and there, whatever that means to you. You know, maybe it's literally that you have a little fun icebreaker in the middle of your long meeting. You know, that can be a real highlight. Get people to get up and, play charades or dance or whatever. I don't know. You can maybe only get away with so much. And then the last thing is always, always, always end your workshop, your meeting, your event on a high note. So that means like that can be anything, but you need to really think about it. So it's important how you start it, but it's so important how you finish. It's so important how you end your experience. So one of the best things, this is just an example, and then I'm finished, I promise. And you can start putting your questions into the comments now if you like, and I'll tell you this little story. One of the best things that I ever did, I worked at this agency, and we used to go, just like Viktorija was saying, we used to go to these huge companies, like really big, serious companies, as well as the cool tech companies like Twitter and Google. We would actually also go to like Lufthansa, for instance, like big corporate companies, and we would run these trainings with them, and we would be, you know, doing all this fun stuff. And then by the end of the 2 days, everyone has learned a lot and they had a great time, but everyone's exhausted, right? Because it's the end. And usually by the end of an event, everyone's a bit tired as well. So what we used to do is we used to give everybody a certificate of completion. And it was really cheesy and really silly. But what we did was we got everybody to run up. We played We Are the Champions, you know, the song, We Are the Champions. We'd play that song and we'd make everybody jump up out of their seat. We'd call them one by one and they would run down to the stage or the front of the room and take their certificate. And we'd make them like take a photo and give us high fives. And everybody, as like the most corporate people in like the suits and ties and like super serious, absolutely adored it. And they were usually the ones that got the most into it. So all I'm saying is it's just so important to think about that end. How does it end? And then, you know, you're going to ask people probably for feedback and they're going to have a lot of good things to say. It's kind of a little trick, actually. Anyway, so I thought I would just finish up with that, that comment. If I can't see if you're going to do this, but I'm going to ask you to get up out of your seat and take a bow because, you know, I've been just throwing stuff at you and you've hopefully paid attention this whole time. I hope. But thank you so much for paying attention and thank you for your comments. I don't see any yet, but I will soon. I'd love to take questions, comments, queries, anything at all. Let's see if we can, you know, dive into that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hold on a second. Here we go. And feel free again to follow me on the things. Come on to LinkedIn. I'm all over that stuff. I'm all over it. Stop sharing. Okay. Oh, hi, Viktorija.
Hello, Brittni. So you know what? You are practicing what you're preaching, right? You're just like, I don't know, audience. I told you that the time will fly with Brittni and you're going to want more. I'm honestly, this whole time I was just listening with the big smile. And it's just, you delivered on all the points that you presented to us. So thank you so much. Here you go, some feedback, great energy. Also, there was some confessions that I will not say whom. I'll keep their identity private. That I love you, Brittni. Follow her on Instagram. Her energy is super. Here we go.
Cool.
So now we have some questions. Can you see them, Brittni?
Yes. So Phoebe's asking, how do you manage the really obstinate, stick in the mud participants, the wet blankets, right? Who don't want to share their cameras, they don't want to participate. So this actually for me comes down to really making your expectations clear before whatever it is that you're running. So if you're running a meeting where you need people to participate, if you're running a really big workshop, you need to make that clear that this person is being invited because it's super important that we get their opinion. It's super important that we actually get them to participate. And, I have rules with my workshops. I'm like, the rule is everybody has their cameras on, unless you have a really good reason or we've talked about it before, everybody has their cameras on. And I know that it's really tough to do this when you are maybe talking to people who are at a more senior level than you, which of course I've been in those scenarios as well. And that when it comes to that, it might mean that you need to talk to that person before, if you know that they're a stick in the mud. It might mean that you need to talk to them before the workshop, privately, of course, and just say, hey, it'd be really important actually that you would at least try to have your camera on for the most part of the workshop, because actually it ends up being that we have more people participating that way. We need to set an example. And you can also, what I also say all the time is, if I'm the only one with my camera on and I'm staring at like a blank black screen, it's not a lot of fun. So it's like, I try to get a bit of sympathy from people, but it's a tough one, Phoebe. Like, it's not really easy. But for me, it's all about before the workshop, setting the expectation that they will have to have their camera on. Okay. How do you keep your energy up if you're speaking without seeing who you're speaking to? Like how? Yasmin, that is a really great question. And I find it difficult. I much prefer when I'm doing like a presentation and I can see everybody's video, but with these larger events where they're streaming, that's just not possible. It also wouldn't really make sense. It'd be very distracting. So how do I keep my energy up? Usually what I do before I go on to any kind of stage scenario, I do, by the way, I feel like I should say this. I do have a lot of experience being like on stage and presenting and stuff. So I used to. I don't really do that anymore because of the pandemic, which maybe it will come back. But I used to do stand-up comedy, right? So I'm very familiar with what, with presentation or the way that I like to present. So what I do is I take some deep breaths. I stand. By the way, I'm standing. I don't know if anybody noticed. It's really, that helps so much. Your energy, your confidence when you're standing up while presenting is massive. So that makes a huge difference. Deep breaths. I stand up. I might do a little like before, just to kind of let it out. But usually nerves turn into excitement. And I'm always nervous before I do anything, but I try to like drive that into the excitement factor. So yeah. Yeah, my tech setup. Okay, how can I share this with you guys? So I use an external camera and it's a Lumix. I can find out what it is on Amazon quickly. I know that sounds silly. So what's super important that you have is a good external camera. That's the number one thing, because my camera actually, I only have one little light that's lighting me right now, and it's really small and actually not that powerful. So okay, hold on, Lumix. I'm going to share. I know this is silly, but people always ask me what this is. So I'm going to copy link address. I'm going to put this into the comments. Oh, can I put it in the comments? Oh, no, I can't.
You can put it in our chat.
In the private chat. I see.
Yeah,
okay,
and then our support.
So that's an Amazon link. So this one has, the most important thing about getting an external camera is that it has autofocus, right? So it's like, if I move, it changes. And also it's adjusting to the light as well. And then I have one small, like almost like a ring light. Actually, you can see it in the, oh, whoops. Whoa. You can see it kind of right here showing up. Oh, it's so weird that it's all backwards. Just one small light. So if you want to go even more tech than that, you can light your background a little bit so that you're separating yourself from your backdrop. And then audio wise, I use, you always want to use a headset and then have a lapel mic of some kind. This is just a really simple, like it's called a lapel mic. So you can look that up. And then that's plugged into my thing. So it's just about having good picture, good audio, obviously. And that's about lighting more than anything. I hope that was helpful. It's a bit of a, any ideas? So Yasmin, any ideas around merging the digital and physical world with an interactive event as a way to get feedback possibly? Any ideas around merging the digital and physical world in an interactive event? So I would assume that you're talking about if you're in person with people, also having like digital components where people can like meet and greet or network or something. I mean, I'm not I haven't planned like really large scale events. So I don't really have a ton of advice around that. I think it's really great what I've seen work and I liked was using something like a polling software like Slido to do Q&A kind of a little bit more streamlined in in-person events. That was a really lame answer. I'm so sorry. I don't really have much more to say about that.
No,
maybe you could clarify, Yasmin.
It's all
what
good.
Do you think? Okay.
I think, we are, coming close to our time, can I call it, limit? And you, Brittni, you deserve, now to rest. So like you said, after the event, you just go to bed.
Just going to pass out today straight away.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to let you go because we want you to come back, I don't know, tomorrow on Instagram and on any other social media platform. So definitely I will second, whoever said this in the chat, follow Brittni, amazing content on both Instagram and LinkedIn platforms. She also does workshops. She also runs her own course now So we know like many ways to get the wisdom that Brittni has to share, that she acquired over such a short amount of time, over, a year, when it comes to running remote events and experiences. So definitely do that. Don't be shy. And thanks a lot, Brittni, for all the energy you brought. Like, as I said, honestly,
thank you.
It's like
such
now
a pleasure.
I'm energized.
Good.
So you go to
That's
sleep.
Exactly how I want you to feel. Yeah,
I'll go to sleep, and I will go, to do some action. So in that case, yes, thank you very much. Thanks everyone who joined in today and watched us. This video will be on Factory's YouTube, so you can rewatch it again and take the notes and then implement everything that you've learned in your real life and in your practices of running virtual events. So thanks again to everyone. Have a lovely evening, and yes, be in touch with our amazing speakers.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.